Good morning, and welcome to the morning from the New York Times. It's Sunday, August 16th, 2026. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a world where machines are increasingly talking to machines and what that means for the rest of us, plus a wave of progressive primary victories reshaping the Democratic Party, a reshuffled presidential calendar, escalating tensions in the Middle East, the Taliban marking 5 years in power, a $10 million gold discovery under a Belgian brewery, and a pug named Ginny Lou who just won the world's ugliest dog contest. We've got a lot to get to, so let's begin. Our lead story today comes from Callie Holterman, a reporter on the Style Desk, who wrote this newsletter without any help from artificial intelligence, a detail she makes a point of noting, because lately, it's getting harder to tell who, or what, is on the other side of any interaction. If you haven't applied for a job recently, you might be surprised by the new normal. On one end, job seekers are using AI chatbots to churn out resumes and cover letters by the dozen. On the other, employers are using AI to sift through the resulting flood of applications. Both sides say they need these tools just to keep up with the other. But the result, as Holterman puts it, feels hollow, impersonal, frustrating. Are people actually getting to know each other better? This dynamic, what she calls bot loops, is spreading far beyond hiring. Consider a high school student who asks a chatbot to write an essay, which she submits to a teacher who then uses AI to grade it. Or someone who asks a bot for a witty opening line on a dating app, only to have the recipient use their own bot to generate a flirty reply. Or a person who sends their AI agent to argue with a company's AI customer service system. As one Reddit user put it recently, we've officially reached the point where customer support is just two LLMs locked in a recursive loop of "I understand your concern," while the actual humans on both ends just watch the credits roll. Holterman spoke with experts for her new story in the Times Magazine, and while some see potential, imagine an AI voice agent calling the DMV for you, and another AI answering the phone, sparing you a trip to what she calls her local Brooklyn DMV, where dreams go to die, the risks are significant. AI systems make mistakes, string several together, and those errors can amplify. There's also emerging research on something called AI self-preference bias, the tendency for these systems to favor their own output. In practice, that means an AI recruiter will likely rate a resume generated by ChatGPT higher than one written by a human. But what unsettled Holterman most was how bot loops strain human relationships. Journalist Evan Ratliff, who's experimented extensively with AI voice agents for his podcast Shell Game, told her it's hard to blame job applicants for using AI when companies don't even bother to send real interviewers. Once it's a little bit debased, he said, you do eliminate the incentive for people to show up as their authentic selves. It's nerve-wracking to show up when you don't know whom or what you'll be dealing with. Ratliff described a moment when he and Holterman first spoke on the phone, each found themselves scrutinizing the other's small talk, wondering if they were talking to a bot. A few minutes later, they were both laughing because each had been wondering the same thing about the other. And this isn't speculative. Our colleagues have been reporting from the front lines. Eli Tan tested AI dating clones for himself, going on hundreds of AI dates and a few real ones in San Francisco, with decidedly mixed results. Natali Rocha reported on Jennifer Dunn, a 54-year-old marketing executive who showed up for a phone interview only to find a virtual AI recruiter named Alex on the line. "Are you a human?" she asked. "No, I'm not a human," Alex replied. "But I'm here to make the interview process smoother." For 20 minutes, Dunn answered questions from an algorithm. Christian Vinson, applying for finance jobs, spent nearly 10 hours teaching two AI chatbots to optimize his applications for the AI screeners he knew would read them. The post-human internet isn't coming. It's here. From the uncanny valley of bot-on-bot interaction, let's turn to politics, where the humans are very much present, and the stakes are immediate. A string of primary wins by progressive candidates has some asking whether Democrats are facing their own Tea Party moment. Lisa Lehrer and Katie Glueck report that a movement of young, progressive outsiders has stormed Democratic politics this year, sparking contentious primaries across the country and fueling a fraught debate over whether these new left-wing candidates are remaking the party in their image. But as primary season winds down, the results reveal both the strength and the potential limitations of this insurgent movement. In Minnesota last week, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan won a Senate primary by a double-digit margin over a more progressive challenger, a sign that the energy doesn't always translate into victories. At the same time, the Democratic National Committee has formally approved sweeping changes to the 2028 presidential primary calendar. Iowa and New Hampshire are out, though they may not go down without a fight, and South Carolina and Nevada are in. Party officials set South Carolina first on January 22, 2028, followed by Nevada on February 1, New Hampshire on February 8, and New Mexico on February 15. The order matters, it shapes which issues get discussed and who ultimately emerges. The move puts more racially diverse states at the front of the line, a priority for a party whose base is shifted. And in Ohio, a familiar face is mounting a comeback. Former Senator Sherrod Brown, now 73, is running again for the seat he lost in 2024. He's one of the Democrats the party is counting on to retake control of the Senate. His populist pitch, the same one that won him 3 terms in a state that's trended red, will be tested once more. Now to the Trump administration, where inconsistency in AI policy, particularly around national security, is raising alarms. David Sanger, Dustin Voles, Anna Swanson, and Julian Barnes report that the administration is veering wildly in its response to the national security implications of artificial intelligence, even as China, America's main technological and military rival, charges ahead. In mid-July, the Air Force sent a stern letter to the country's biggest military contractors. By September 1, all software used for weapons and control systems must be free of products built by the AI company Anthropic. Failure to comply would put all their Pentagon business at risk. Within a month, the administration reversed course. The back and forth has left contractors and allies uncertain and potentially created an opening for Chinese infiltration of American infrastructure. The administration is also using visas as a tool of pressure in the Western Hemisphere. Emiliano Rodriguez Mega, Emma Bubala, Gabriel Labrador, and David Bolanos report that the State Department is revoking the visas of foreign leaders, ambassadors, and journalists to try to assert U.S. dominance. When Chilean officials signed a deal for a 12,000-mile undersea cable connecting Chile to Hong Kong, a Chinese project, they were thrilled. Then a senior U.S. embassy official intervened, and the mood shifted abruptly. The message is clear: alignment with Washington comes with conditions. And a delayed federal rule on tracking tainted food hampered the response to a Cyclospora outbreak that sickened thousands. Christina Jewett and Julie Cresswell report that the Trump administration delayed a rule last year that could have sped up the effort to pinpoint contamination sources. When cases mounted in Michigan and officials homed in on Taco Bell as a common thread, they asked for supply chain records on July 1. They asked again on July 3. And again on July 6, with the outbreak growing, one official wrote, "We need this information immediately." The records didn't come quickly. Critics charge that food safety oversight has eroded overall. Overseas, the war in the Middle East has taken a sharp turn. Iran accused Qatar on Saturday of capturing 3 of its bomber pilots in the early days of the US-Israeli war with Iran, a claim Qatar publicly denies. General Syed Mohammad Bagherzadeh, commander of Iran's Missing Persons Search Committee, sent a letter to the International Committee of the Red Cross stating the men were flying Su-24 fighter jets on March 2, days after the war began, when their planes were hit by enemy defenses and the pilots ejected. Qatar's government says it's not true. The accusation, published by Iranian media, adds a volatile new dimension to an already fraught regional conflict. At the same time, Israeli strikes killed at least 11 people in southern Lebanon early Saturday, one of the deadliest attacks since a fragile truce took effect nearly 2 months ago. Avi Latif Dahir, reporting from Beirut, says an overnight strike in Ansar, near Nabatee, killed 7 people, including 3 children, and wounded 2 others. Hours later, an airstrike on Deir al-Zarani killed at least 4 and wounded 17. The Lebanese Health Ministry confirmed the toll. The Israeli Prime Minister's office said Hezbollah had struck first, injuring 3 Israeli soldiers. The truce, never fully stable, is fraying. In Afghanistan, the Taliban celebrated 5 years in power on Saturday. Elian Peltier, the Times' Afghanistan bureau chief, describes black and white Taliban flags flying high along Kabul streets, shiny Mercedes-Benzes driving past graffiti praising fighters' sacrifice in crimson letters with depictions of blood drops. Young Afghans chanted independence songs below posters hailing how the carpet of democracy had been removed for Islamic rule. But the triumphant tone is only half the story. The Taliban may be boisterous in public, but threats are starting to crack their veneer of stability and control. They have the country in a chokehold that spares no one, yet the celebration masks deepening economic crisis, isolation, and internal fractures. In Canada, more than 190,000 people have signed a petition to Parliament calling for the removal of U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra. Martina Steves-Gridneff reports from Toronto that after boycotting American products and shunning vacations south of the border, Canadians are channeling their anger into a formal demand. The petition asserts that Hoekstra, a faithful messenger of President Trump's aggressive stance toward Canada, has harmed U.S.-Canada relations. The two countries are at a historic low. And in Belgium, construction workers drilling beneath a defunct brewery in Dendermonde struck gold, literally. Zane Irwin reports that a drill hit a small brick cellar sealed beneath the foundation. Inside, 49 gold bars and more than 4,000 gleaming coins, a cache worth an estimated $10 million. The police chief, Patrick Faze, thought it was a prank when he was interrupted in a Tuesday meeting. "Things like that normally don't happen in real life," he said. The origin and fate of the fortune remain unknown. Back in the United States, a trustee is trying to block Nick Reiner, the younger son of director Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner, from using his $1.6 million trust fund to defend himself against charges that he murdered his parents. Julia Jacobs and Matt Stevens report that the trustee invoked California's Slayer statute, which prevents someone accused of killing a benefactor from inheriting. Reiner has pleaded not guilty and is currently represented by a public defender. He's taken legal action to access the money for a private lawyer. Hurricane Lala lashed the Big Island of Hawaii with heavy rain and wind, downing power lines and causing flooding, but did not make landfall. The storm is moving toward the rest of the island chain. And in lighter news, Ginny Lou, a rescued pug with a protruding tongue that she likes to dip into everyone's food bowls, won the world's ugliest dog contest on Friday. It was her fourth attempt. She was runner-up last year. Elena Serra writes that for the pets and their owners, this competition is proof that where you come from doesn't define where you end up. With her floppy tongue and bulging eyes, the 6-year-old pug did not disappoint. From the opinion pages, Tracy McMillan Cottom writes that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is almost certainly running for president. The signs have been building for over a year: a foreign policy speech at the Munich Security Conference, a visit to rural Georgia to fight a data center, and this week, a video series about freezing her eggs that Cottom calls a soft launch: personal, confessional, intimate, and socially savvy. But the question isn't whether she's running. It's whether she can win and whether she'd be stepping onto what Cottom calls the glass cliff. The editorial board argues that Republicans are taking steps to make healthcare even less affordable. One of the federal government's great achievements this century was making insurance affordable to millions more Americans. The uninsured rate for people under 65 fell from nearly 18% in 2010 to below 10% by 2024, thanks to the Affordable Care Act and later legislation. President Trump and congressional Republicans are working to dismantle that, effectively cutting subsidies for ACA marketplaces and making it harder for people without employer coverage to afford care. Now, a few morning reads to carry you through the weekend. On an uninhabited Irish island, for one day each summer, the tide recedes and an amateur horse race takes off across the shifting sands, young jockeys racing against the water itself. As convents close across the country, older Catholic nuns are finding new places to live out their lives together, and they're bringing the party with them. At the Wartburg home in Mount Vernon, New York, happy hour comes every Friday at 2 p.m., with snacks, a live entertainer, and sisters clapping along to Hello, Dolly. Lauren Jackson takes us on an accidental pilgrimage through art, beginning with the 1908 earthquake that nearly swallowed Messina, Sicily, and the two Caravaggio masterpieces that survived. Violet Hensley, the Ozarks fiddler who made her own instruments and debuted at the Grand Ole Opry at age 99, died this month at 109. She performed at Silver Dollar City for more than 50 years and once appeared on the Beverly Hillbillies. And Tina Jordan, editor of the Book Review, tries to guess thriller titles based only on their opening lines, a video worth watching. In sports, St. Louis Cardinals prospect Joshua Baez became the first player in MLB history to hit 3 home runs in his major league debut, and he did it in his first 3 at-bats. The first came on the very first pitch he saw, a 2-run shot off Matthew Boyd. He's the 33rd player ever to homer on his first pitch, and the 5th in Cardinals history. In Paris, 19-year-old Johannes Liebmann of Germany smashed the men's 1500-meter freestyle world record at the European Aquatics Championships, swimming it in 14 minutes, 26.79 seconds, nearly 4 seconds faster than Bobby Finke's Olympic mark from 2024. And a consortium including Jeff Bezos has purchased a minority stake of Liverpool Football Club, his first known investment in a sports team. The deal, for roughly 30% to one-third of the club, includes an option to buy a controlling stake down the line. Book of the Week, The Amateur by Chris Bojalian. Like his breakout midwives, this thoughtful page-turner begins with an accidental death. An 18-year-old golf prodigy at an exclusive country club hits a drive that kills a young caddy in 1978, shattering a well-tended suburban world. Our thrillers columnist calls it a morality tale, a psychological exploration of guilt, a portrait of a girl going off the rails, and then, because of a plot twist, a courtroom drama. If you want more, best-selling author Hannah Witten recommends 11 books about rich people behaving badly, thrillers, horror, fantasy, where the ultra-wealthy face consequences. Preferably big ones. The interview this week features Matthew Rhys in conversation with Lulu Garcia-Navarro. You'd think 2 Emmy nominations in the same year would make an actor feel secure. You'd be wrong. Rhys, 51, grew up in Wales, trained at RADA, struggled through Hollywood fits and starts, and broke through as Philip Jennings in The Americans, where he also fell in love with co-star Kerry Russell. They've been together ever since. In the interview, he talks about falling in love at work, his deep commitment to his Welsh roots, and the charming, amusing, surprisingly low-confidence man behind the acclaimed performances. The Morning recommends, prepare your home for vacation with advice from wildlife and home maintenance experts, store food in sealed containers, fix leaking faucets, or you might return to a failed freezer, a mouse, and a small snake hunting it across your kitchen floor. Be a better friend. 1 in 6 Americans feel lonely most or all of the time. In 1990, just 3% said they had no close friends. Today it's 12%. Third places are disappearing. The pandemic fractured connections, but with effort and strategy, you can foster strong, invigorating friendships. Improve your balance with single leg exercises, a 25-minute workout to move more easily and avoid injury. And wear electric Kool-Aid blue, the color everywhere on runways and streets, somewhere between teal and cyan, nostalgic and optimistic and easier to pull off than you think. Meal plan, it's peak tomato season. Emily Weinstein, editor-in-chief of NYT Cooking, says the best way to eat a ripe tomato is sliced with salt and pepper. The second best? A classic BLT, no avocado, please. She shares an excellent BLT recipe plus tomato basil chicken breasts, crispy halloumi with tomatoes, and burst cherry tomato orzado. Now time to play. Today's spelling bee. Yesterday's pangram was radicchio. Can you put 8 historical events, including the settlement of California, Iceland's first parliament, and the debut of Chef Boyardee, in chronological order? Take this week's flashback quiz. And here are today's mini crossword, Wordle, crossplay, connections, and strands. Thanks for spending part of your weekend with the Times. This has been the morning for Sunday, August 16, 2026. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a good one.